Welcome back to the program, everyone. Let's get back to the conversation with Professor Kingsley Moghalu, who was a YPP presidential candidate at the 2019 presidential election. I'm getting his view on the assessment, his assessment of the 2019 presidential election and the electoral process in Nigeria. And of course, also getting his take on the state of the nation. Don't forget, he was a former, or he's a former deputy governor of the CBN. So we need some of his experience in this regard. Thank you so much, Professor Moghalu, for coming on tonight.
Thank you.
A big question will be, I mean, you've mentioned those areas that you think the Buhari government needs to make legacy. But as it stands right now, it's critical, security.
Security is huge.
What do you think should be done differently?
I said during the campaigns, and I still say, just as a citizen now, that the whole question of the security of our country needs to be looked at very deeply and very holistically. Let's start with the question of the police force. We don't have, effectively, a police force in Nigeria. You have only 350,000 police for a country of 200 million people. I find that grossly inadequate. And not only that, they are under-equipped. You see what I'm saying? They are not very well trained in modern or community policing, so there's no trust between them and the citizens. So that's a very, very big problem. I had proposed that Nigeria's police force needs to be massively increased, equipped, and trained. We should have nothing less than 1.5 million policemen in this country who are well trained and very well equipped. Now,
funding, what about funding them?
Yes, people will always talk about funding them. We are spending huge amounts of money on petroleum subsidy in this country. Wouldn't that money be better spent funding our security?
Is it realistic, actually? Because you mentioned on
a
very interesting area, the fuel subsidy.
Yes.
If you won the presidency, the presidential election at the time, were you going to remove fuel subsidy?
Yes. It may not have been the first thing we would do. We would educate the public as to why this fuel subsidy is not good for our country and therefore not good for the citizens, because who enjoys the fuel subsidy? It's mostly the rich.
Mathematically and realistically speaking, the fact remains if you remove the fuel subsidy, you have a higher price of products.
I had a plan for all that. I mean, all that was, we communicated that. We should never shy away from solving problems just because they're difficult, or just because some of the solutions may initially be unpopular. Reforms are never popular.
Do you think this government can remove subsidy?
They ought to. Let's just put it that way.
Because they are
whether or not you'll have, leadership.
The language of
let me tell you what leadership is, part of what it is. It's taking people from one place to another place that is better than where they used to be. But it includes motivating them, it means inspiring them, and it means taking calculated risks. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, a leader cannot be a coward. Oh, I wouldn't do this because. That means you can stay with a problem for 100 years.
Listen, you can see
the point I'm trying to make. The point I'm trying to make is
also you look at the political expediency of some of your decisions.
Yes, so you manage and you time your decisions. And the question of public communication, manufacturing the consent of those that you are governing, is very important. And it calls for your ability to communicate. It calls for your ability to explain to the people. And these are the areas where a lot of our leaders are challenged. But you cannot make an omelette without breaking an egg.
Interesting. We understand that. Let me take you to we'll probably stay for another minute or so on your terrain in terms of economy.
Yes.
And the IMF did make some assumptions about Nigeria, which the government is not happy about.
Sure.
But for the first time, the CBN did something. They've been doing nothing as regard the NPR.
Okay.
And this time around, they reduced the rate to 13.5%.
Yes.
Are we in the right direction in terms of monetary policy, in terms of our economic direction in this country?
No. Fundamentally, no. And let me tell you, again, we come back to the question of courage, the question of vision, the question of the ability to communicate an economic philosophy and an economic vision to the citizens of Nigeria and say, because of this vision, we are now going to have to shape our policy in this direction, and it's going to take some hard decisions. Let me give you an example. Foreign exchange policy. the foreign exchange policy in this country, where we have multiple exchange rates, it's wrong. The foreign exchange policy is subsidized in a false manner by injection of dollars by the CBN as if they were steroids to keep us artificially fit. What does that do? What that does is that it subsidizes an import-dependent economy, period. If you completely realign your forex policy by letting market forces a little bit determine the cost of the dollar to the naira, but you also, not just a devaluation, because a devaluation is coming if care is not taken by 2020 at this rate. But it's not just a devaluation. The problem in Nigeria is that governments have always devalued but have not taken the necessary steps to make devaluation work for the economy. When you devalue, you must amend trade policy.
If you have the power,
yes.
Let me quickly, because I have a few questions,
sure.
and I want to get your quick reaction.
I want to make the point that if you devalue, you must realign your trade and industrial policy to take advantage of devaluation so that export competitiveness becomes the focus of the economy.
I have about...
And you can import anything, but you must pay the tariff.
Quickly, we need to go. I need
Absolutely.
our 20 seconds reaction to these 3 or 4 questions.
Sure.
The first one is NNPC. The government has said, this is what we want to do with the NNPC, revoking some of the rights of ownership of some of these oil wells and all of that. Is that the right thing to do?
The fundamental approach to the NNPC, as I said during the campaigns, is that the NNPC needs to be at least partially privatized. 51 to 49% private sector government. It's very important so that more capital can come. The NNPC is not a very profitable corporation. It's not a transparent corporation. And it's just, how should I say, it's just one of the most important elements of the political economy of corruption in Nigeria.
Professor Moghalu, 2023, are you still going to run?
It's too early for me to make that sort of decision.
Have you given up?
I said, it's too early.
Would you like to still be Nigeria's president?
I said, I will reflect, and I'm reflecting, on my future. And I will make a decision at the right time, and I will announce it.
Have you spent all that you have in terms of financial capital?
That's a very interesting question. Have I come to you to beg for money?
No, I'm just asking. You spent a lot of money.
Most candidates spend a lot of money. Have you asked APC and PDP how much they spend?
So now that we are talking about
I find a very false, very double standard in these kinds of things.
So if I'm talking to the candidate of the APC, I might be asking the same question.
People do not ask the major parties about their finances. But anytime you have an alternative candidate, people get very, courageous. How much is in your personal bank account?
Why are you not courageous to tell us?
No, it's not about courage. I have said it before. I've given an indication that we spent, like any serious presidential candidate, we didn't spend anything compared to the APC or the PDP, but we spent hundreds of millions of naira. Some of that was my personal resources. Others were we will publish our accounts. So it's not.
You think the president should go to the south the next time?
I am not somebody that is very much into zoning. I'm more into vision and competence. But for national unity, for equity, I think that would be a better outcome.
Are you probably be the right candidate?
If I was the right candidate in 2019, which I felt, it means I'm not the wrong candidate anytime in the future.
Professor Kingsley Moghalu, it's always a pleasure. You become so political now. Some of the times I spoke to you, you were very much like a private sector president, but now you talk more like a politician. Professor Kingsley Moghalu, it's a pleasure having you on the program.
It's good to be
here. We
here.
look forward to talking to you in the nearest future. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you so much. YPP presidential candidate in the 2019 presidential election. Well, that's our show for tonight, everyone. Many thanks for watching. I'm Sean Kimale. Bye-bye.